Let me tell you a little anecdote. A few days ago, a lady said to me in Los Angeles, my husband died a year ago, and he shared with me a great lesson. On his deathbed, he said to me, come close. I want to tell you something. Listen very carefully. I can only say this once. I don't have much strength left. She said, I'm listening, darling. What is it? He said, remember this always. Each morning, the moment you take your head off the pillow, you have all you need.
If we look at the mind as an iceberg, and the tip of the iceberg is what's above the surface. That's the conscious mind. That's the mind of choice. That's the action mind. What's below the surface, and that's most of the iceberg, right? That's the subconscious mind, like a submarine. You don't know it's there, but it's there, unless it surfaces.
Well, most of us say we want X. I want a new car. I want a fancy house. I want inner peace. I want a loving relationship. And then we start to go out into our world and we say, I will earn the right. And you start working away at life. And you're using your mind a lot and you're working at everything, and things get in the way. Life seems to throw curves at you.
You can think of everyone in this world that you know as dragging a whole bunch of suitcases behind them. The emotion code is a way to cut loose all those suitcases, all those steamer trunks, all that baggage that you've been carrying around all your life. The end result of that is that you become light and you become able to manifest into the world what you're supposed to be able to manifest. Imagine living in a world where everyone is actually manifesting from their heart into the world their perfect creation that is inside each of them. That's where we're going.
The way I understand emotions are that when we have emotions, oftentimes we don't express our emotions. And the good emotions we do express, but the negative or the painful emotions, they get trapped in our body. And we can become sick from those emotions. And the way I understand it is like a glass of water, where you add water, you continue to add water. But when we don't express them, when we don't give it energy and we don't work through our stuff, then ultimately it's going to spill over into a disease or an illness or something that manifests as a result of what we haven't worked on.
I am absolutely convinced that it is our trapped emotions and traumas and anxieties and unprocessed life experiences that we hold in our nervous system are the source of everything that ails us.
One of the most profound things in my life has been able to share ancient wisdom that I came across just as a young guy traveling around the world and fascinated by communities that pretty much live off the grid, and they're long-lived, they're healthy, they're happy. And it always bothered me, how can they be that way without hospitals and doctors and miracle supplements and pills and capsules? They don't have any of that.
What I've come to understand is at the core of every symptom, every stress, every dis-ease pattern that we experience, whether it be physical, whether it be emotional, are emotions, memories that are buried in our subconscious mind. And when these are triggered, our body reacts. It's called a maladaptive stress reaction. And what it means is that we're not able to adapt in the present moment, here and now. And what happens is our body reacts as if something from the past is going on right now.
Now, when we react to conditions in our life, there is an emotional component that begins to create chemistry in our bodies because the body is interpreting an emergency situation. Now, all organisms in nature are designed for short-term stress. Gazelle gets chased by a lion, 15 minutes later it goes back to grazing and everything returns back to balance. Human beings are a little different. We can turn on the stress response just by thought alone. We can think about some past bitter memory that's tattooed in the recesses of our gray matter, and like magic, it comes to life, and in that moment, it's real.
Whenever you see something, because the brain works in pictures, there's a response to that image of the sensory impact. If you hear a sound that sounds dangerous, your body, your brain will create an emotional molecule to get you to respond to that.
And as a result, our heart rate increases, our immune system suppresses, we become more anxious because we're not in our fullest potential in the moment. At the core of every symptom, stress, and disease are emotions and memories, traumatic perceptions that are buried in our subconscious mind. Subconscious mind acts as a lens of perception, but even more, the subconscious mind acts as a broadcasting signal. And it broadcasts a frequency of energy that then attracts that same frequency and energy. So now let's use for an example, here I am at, I'm in my mother's womb. I'm developing in my mother's womb. And my dad is out of a job, and my mom is anxious because it's the third child that's coming around. The heartbeat and the emotions that my mom, my dad are feeling are directly influencing, like a computer being programmed and downloading information. I'm directly downloading this information. And this becomes a stored file. And that file then later in life doesn't just, sit there quiet. It's energy.
Out of the University of Utah, they are doing research on epigenetics, and they're discovering that the offspring carry this trauma for the previous generations. They did some scientific studies with mice, and they conditioned by shocking the mice to be afraid of cherry blossoms. The second and third generations of mice, just introducing the cherry blossom without the shock, their offspring were still afraid of the cherry blossoms. So this proves that there is an epigenetic link, that the mice carried the fears of their ancestors.
If a baby is born feeling unloved, unwanted, and unaccepted, then that creates a belief system. They will then grow up and go through life and attract to themselves whatever supports that belief system.
And energy is in motion. So it stays in motion. And when it gets triggered, that energy gets triggered, it broadcasts a signal that then attracts people and circumstances that give me the same experience, different face, different name, but the same kind of experience in my life today. This is patterns. The key is to begin to understand that there are emotional patterns that we carry in our life that, as a result of these emotional patterns that are in our subconscious mind, influence our relationship with money, influence our relationships with each other, influence every aspect of who we are.